Today's guest is someone whose voice, energy, and storytelling have become a familiar part of the Oregon sports landscape. Ally Osborne is a reporter for Oregon Ducks on Sports Illustrated and a born and raised Oregonian whose journey in sports journalism started right here at the University of Oregon's School of Journalism and Communication. She cut her teeth working live sporting broadcasts with ESPN, Fox Sports, the Pac-12 Network, and the Oregon Sports Network before launching her broadcast career in Bend. Since then, she's become a go-to on-site reporter at Autzen Stadium, entering her third season covering the Ducks. Ally also brings her talents to KOIN 6 News in Portland, where she hosts Everyday Northwest and Tower Talk Live, and contributes as a sports reporter for Game On. And outside of the newsroom, she's an avid graphic designer, creating custom artwork for athletes, with some of her designs even making their way onto permanent tattoos. Today, we talk about the craft of sports storytelling, the realities of live reporting, navigating passionate fan bases, and how communication shapes the world of college athletics. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Ally Osborne. Ally Osborne is a reporter for Oregon Ducks on Sports Illustrated and host at KOIN 6 News in Portland, where she leads Everyday Northwest, Tower Talk Live, and contributes to the sports show Game On. A University of Oregon journalism graduate, she has reported for Central Oregon Daily News, covered Ducks football at Autzen Stadium, and worked on live sports broadcasts for ESPN, Fox News, and the Pac-12 Network. In addition to journalism, Osborne is a graphic designer whose work has even become tattoos for Duck athletes. Thank you so much for being here today, Ally. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Now, I am a morning journalist, so this is more of kind of like the time where I would be either falling asleep or getting ready to go to sleep. But I had some pre-workout, I'm ready to go, and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having
You're
me.
Yeah, you are pumped, and I am super grateful that you are here with me this evening. So thank you so much. You are actually my first non-academic on this podcast, which has
Oh,
been a long time
fabulous.
coming because I've really wanted to do this because obviously, as you know, communication stretches across so many different industries and platforms that I'm really excited to be here to kind of just pick your brain a bit and see communication from your perspective and from what you do and just something a little different.
Absolutely, absolutely. Plus, it's two duck girlies talking together. What could get better than that?
I don't
Truly.
think it gets much better than that at all. So I'm super excited. So, kind of kicking things off, you have built a career telling stories through sports. What drew you to journalism in the first place?
Well, one of the things that drew me to journalism when I was growing up in Oregon, number one, I had always been going to Duck games. I come from a long, long family of Duck fans. And when I was in high school and middle school, I was a professional model and a professional actress. So I did a lot of that going up to college, and I originally was going to go to college for art. That was the original plan that I had because I had this career. My parents told me, "Hey, dummy, don't go follow your acting dreams. Get a degree first," which I thank them for to this day. But I went to the University of Oregon, and I realized that there was some way that I could incorporate my passion for acting and my passion for being on camera and storytelling with my art and sports in a way that is journalism. And that was something that really hooked me. Was I was like, "Oh, man, I could actually talk about something that I'm passionate about and be able to tell stories of athletes and show other people's stories in a beautiful way and use my art to do so." So it was kind of just like the marrying of everything that I was interested in, and I decided to pursue it ever since.
That's amazing. And for what it's worth, you are an incredible artist. I
Thank you.
always love seeing like what you create when you post it and your art is just wonderful. So, but I love that. I love how that all kind of came together for you and now look at what you have done and what you have accomplished. It's incredibly exciting. So,
Thank you.
that's amazing. Covering the Ducks, you are surrounded by passionate fans and big moments. What's been your favorite on the job memory so far?
Oh gosh, there is so many. The first thing that popped into my mind was when I was at the University of Oregon. I had gotten an internship with the Oregon Sports Network, which at the time was the university-run Pac-12 broadcast center. So they would broadcast the baseball games, basically all the sports with the Pac-12 network, and it was just insular to that group. And all the kids that would intern for it would have opportunities to go work on live sporting sets for ESPN and Fox 12, Runner Space, so many different programs. And one of the games, one of the first games I ever worked was during 2020, during that shortened season, UCLA versus Oregon, the game that the Ohana jerseys were released. And I had been talking to the guys on the crew. I'd been getting there early mornings, helping them set up. And I had been talking to guys on the crew about how much I wanted to be a sideline reporter. And the day of the game, I was told, hey, we're going to give our lighting panel guy a break. You're going to hold the lighting panel for our sideline reporter today. And that was Taylor McGregor, who is now the Chicago Cubs dugout reporter. She hosts the pregame and postgame shows, and she also does a lot of college football around the country. That game where I was shadowing Taylor McGregor, it was halftime. She comes up to me and she goes, hey, we got an interview with Chip Kelly. And I said, what? Because, of course, any Oregon Duck fan, especially during that 2010s era and early 2000s era, will know Chip Kelly as the coach that he is. And so we went up to the opposing players' exit because they were using both at the time during the 2020 game. The stands were completely empty with those cardboard cutouts, and Chip Kelly came out. He shook both of our hands, and I was completely speechless. It was amazing. The second thing that comes to mind is covering my first Rose Bowl last year. Though it was an unfortunate result for the Oregon Ducks by far, it was the first ever Rose Bowl I had ever covered professionally. It was incredible being behind the scenes of one of the most historic venues in the country for college football. Being able to be on the field and see Kirk Herbstreit and Reese Davis walk by was insane. I got to meet Urban Meyer. That was mixed feelings. If you're a Duck fan, mixed feelings. But it was a incredible experience being able to cover that. And there were many times where I was in the press box watching Jeremiah Smith run in yet another touchdown and be like, I'm still so psyched to be here. And by the way, the brisket mac and cheese at the Rose Bowl in the press box is one of the best foods I've ever had. It's so, so good.
That's amazing. I love that you still had an incredible experience despite the outcome of the game. But it's understandable because that is literally like such a great setting and probably such a great experience. Like I remember attending my first Rose Bowl, and it's just an experience that it's really hard to kind of put into words what it means being in that moment and
You
a
get
game.
chills. Yeah.
Yeah, you totally do. So it's so exciting, and that's so exciting that was like your first one, like covering it. So
It was amazing. The results were not what
right.
most Duck fans had hoped, but it was great. Through what I've covered for the University of Oregon and the other football programs I've covered, it has been a privilege to just witness what has happened at all these programs. I mean, when I worked in West Virginia covering the West Virginia Mountaineers, I was there for the Coal Rush jerseys, the all black with the
Yeah.
silver, and that was a cool experience as well. So there's a lot of things here and there that are great that you pick up on because this job is a privilege, and it's really cool to be able to be there and witness those moments and bring those to the rest of the fans.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is incredible. So with your job, so sports reporting, there can be a lot of pressure and high pressure. Do you remember a time when things didn't go as planned on air, and how did you handle that?
Oh my gosh, that's not even just in sports journalism. That's journalism, period. A lot of things will. Basically, I've been told this. I was told this by a old anchor at Central Oregon Daily. His name's Alan Schaffler. He had worked in Seattle for over a decade before retiring to Central Oregon as like his final job before he retired officially. And he would always tell me, kiddo, journalism is a moving train. It will get derailed. You just have to make sure it keeps moving. There are many times where things have gone chaotically, whether on Everyday Northwest, a guest takes too long to set up and they're not able to get in to hit their mark when we come back from commercial. There have been times where I have had to read through, also referencing a former job I had where the generator would go out So the backup generator would fire up and we wouldn't have the teleprompter going. So I would have sheets of paper in front of me or an iPad in front of me and I would have to read off, look up, read off, look up, just
Yeah.
memorize the next two lines in front of them and get the news across. Or there were many times at that former job I would have to memorize scripts and memorize details. So in case the power went out, in case something technologically bad happened, I would skip through and be able to have all the points of a story to be able to tell it accurately. And with grace, I mean, there have been many times, and I can't point out one, but there have been many times where I've had to think on my feet, and that's just journalism. That's just what it is.
Yeah. I imagine, were you pretty good at public speaking growing up, like either in high school and college?
In elementary school, actually, I was my
Elementary.
fifth grade commencement speaker. So yeah, I guess
There
it
you
started back
go.
then.
It totally started back then. That's fascinating because I also had public speaking in fifth grade. And anytime I bring that up, people are like, wait, what? That's really weird. Why did it start so young? I'm like, wait, you didn't? Like, I thought this was a thing. Like, a
No,
lot of people,
because
they don't take it till college.
oh my gosh, yeah. Well, back in my elementary school days, the Middleton Mustangs, shout out. We did a program called Junior Achievements BizTown. And have you ever heard of this?
No, I
Okay,
haven't.
so everybody in the fifth grade class had to audition and do a job interview for a fake job in this town simulation, and you were that job for the whole day. So there was a campaign for mayor. You could be a FedEx driver and deliver packages to other like buildings in the little town. You could work at the concessions area. You could be a veterinarian. I was the TV reporter. I was the TV person. So it started from a young age, and originally I thought like, man, I want to be a child actor. I didn't realize that that just meant, hey, you should do exactly what you're doing here in fifth grade, but a couple years down
That's
the
so
road.
funny though. Look, like how the dots connect along the way.
Right? Yeah,
That's
it's almost
amazing.
kismet.
Yeah, exactly. So, journalism is ultimately about communication. How do you balance giving fans the facts while also telling the kind of story that really connects with them?
I think you've just got to follow the story itself. I feel like when you report a story, in if you've done it enough times, you know what the bite is that'll get people interested. You've got to get people interested. It's a hook. It's like if you're writing a story. There's always going to be a hook to something. You just got to find out where it is, and all the facts will come along. All the rest of the story will come along. Everything, if you are a good storyteller, you can make anything compelling. Like I had to way back in the day before I came to KOIN, I had to report on city council meetings in Bend. I had to report on school parent teacher meetings.
Yeah.
You gotta make anything interesting. And if you cover enough boring, quote unquote, boring events, you'll be able to make even the most exciting things extremely enthralling and even the most boring things extremely enthralling. So it's just all in how you craft your story.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think if you have the ability to make a city council meeting sound exciting, you can probably just take on the world, Allie. So, it's really,
Well, you just gotta think of like, well, what about this makes it interesting for me? What
yeah,
about could make it interesting for the normal man? Yeah, we're in a city council meeting. Oh, wait, they're talking about redistricting here, and maybe this plot of wildlife could be turned into apartments. That's interesting. That gets somebody thinking. This plot of land could soon be some buildings, and that immediately makes a viewer go, wait, what? Why? Or what can I do about this? It you just got to get a hook to have somebody to get them.
yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, fans can be pretty opinionated. How do you
Yeah.
navigate how do you navigate reporting objectively while still acknowledging the emotions people bring to sports? And this is probably really fascinating with you as an Oregon fan covering Oregon. So like how do you walk that line of being objective and also like embracing the feelings that you feel from the outcome of a game or how a game's playing out, how the direction of programs moving and whatnot?
Well, I would say number one, I, I'm guilty of reading them, but I try not to read any of the comments when a story of mine comes out. I try not to. engage as much, just because whatever the facts are, the facts are. Oregon notoriously has, and I went to the school, so I can say it. Oregon notoriously has a very vocal and a very controversial fan base. And I think that just reporting exactly what the facts are, eliminating as much opinion as you can add into it. I remember a sports producer, former sports producer for KOIN, Alex Altman, told me a long time ago. He said, it takes a good journalist to cover a bad team. So it's easy to cover a team that's doing well all the time because that's what the fans want to hear is that the team is doing well. It takes a good journalist to look at a bad team, find the good there, and also find the critiques and have an even hand with both.
I love that. Yeah, that makes total sense and it's very well said. So, communication in sports isn't just reporters and players, it's fans, social media, press conferences, coaches, all this good stuff. From your perspective, what's the most fascinating communication dynamic in college sports?
Ooh, I think the most fascinating communication dynamic in college sports, and I've experienced this in some other places, not as much. Sometimes at the University of Oregon, sometimes, but it's the permission through the university to have access to players. One of the reasons a lot of the time when I'm previewing the season, I reach out to former players, and a lot of the times journalists will do that, is because you can't really talk to the actual guys on the field yourselves unless you go through a couple hoops, and it's pretty regulated what you ask them. It's definitely one of those where, and I think that that's changing in an interesting way with NIL, with so many more
Right.
players' rights. A lot of players are becoming kind of their own entity, if you will. It hasn't fully changed to where you have to check in with the athletic department every time you interview an active player, of course. Do that every single time. But it's interesting to see how much more available players are becoming through sponsorship deals and whatnot. Because I get emails now from brands that are like, hey, we've got this active player who's doing this. Would you like to interview with him about this? And it's kind of interesting seeing how that's changed. Because I remember seeing something with Tez Johnson about that specifically. Somebody was like, hey, Tez Johnson is available to talk about this particular collaboration. So it's interesting to see how that dynamic has changed and how players with their own brands now, due to NAL, are kind of finding ways to communicate about these deals and partnerships in unique ways.
That's fascinating. And that is interesting kind of seeing that transition of what it used to be compared to how it's changing just with the general landscape of college football. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I
very
also will say, I believe this is by the end of the Ducks season when I got this email as well. So it seems like he
yeah.
was kind of leaving the program. But I'd be interested to see how communications continues in this current state of NIL with players and players getting more of a self brand. It would be
Yeah.
interesting.
Absolutely, that is really interesting. So, how do you prepare to ask coaches and athletes the kinds of questions that get more than just the cliche answers?
Ooh, ooh. Personally, I myself am very bad at asking questions during like a media presser because I never want to ask the wrong thing, if that makes sense. What
Totally.
I usually do is if I'm in a situation where I can ask something, where I feel inclined to ask something, you do a lot of research beforehand. I usually go in with like one or two topics in mind to be like, these are things that I would like to hear, that I would like an article on, so these are
Totally.
what I'll ask. Usually, when you're in sports, you kind of have to look for those storylines, those things that you're like, okay, this is like, for example, today, Jerry Mixon, the linebacker for Oregon, he had that very scintillating comment about the Oregon State Beavers. One of the journalists, his name's Ryan. I'm forgetting his last name right now, so excuse me, Ryan. Sorry. He Same day asked Malik Murphy, starting quarterback for Oregon State, about that comment. That's something that's going to get clicks. That's something that the fans want to hear, is that kind of back and forth with a rivalry. So it's one of those things where you kind of build off the coverage you've done in the past. You build off the research you've done about this person, and you come in with a couple ideas on solidly what you want to have in case you are really inclined to ask.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. That's great. So a lot of fans, as you know, get their sports news and information from social media platforms like Twitter and TikTok. How do you
Yep.
see the role of journalists evolving alongside that?
You know, I think social media in general has been a new tool for journalists, but has also made a journalist's job that much harder because I cannot tell you the amount of fake information
Yeah.
that is on social media. There is currently on Facebook, there have been several fake reports from a random account on Facebook that gets shared 1 billion times about DJ Uyunglele donating to a local restaurant.
Mm.
And he himself has come out on his social media about that and said, I have never done that, actually. So it's things like that that, number one, makes a journalist's life harder, but also makes a journalist's job so much more important. So I think that this will happen for several journalists, and I've talked with folks that I've worked with about this. I think that, and it's happening right now, so many journalists are moving and transitioning to an online platform.
Right.
Right now, for example, KOIN, we are currently putting a lot of content onto our KOIN Plus app, which is kind of going to be the future of what we do. We've got original programming on there, we've got reporting on there, and I think it's just one of those things where journalists are going to have to meet the people where they're at and be able to be those pillars to say, no, DJ Uyunglele is not getting married to Sydney Sweeney next week. That's just something that your aunt reposted on Facebook and isn't real. So it's just meeting the people where they're at and making sure that the information is correct, because journalists, that is the biggest power that we have, is to deliver the correct information.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's beautifully said and so important too, because considering not only how much information, but how social media just has this power over our society and over the daily lives of so many people, meeting people where they're at seems like such an important framing. It's like such important framing in regard to how to strategize and connect with people and credibly and effectively share information.
Yeah.
So that totally makes sense. So I want to know, just like a fun little question, what's the funniest or strangest fan interaction you've had in your career?
Oh, funniest or
Yeah,
strangest?
either or, both if you want.
Um, I will say, and I don't encourage this. My mom has had people tell her that they watch me,
Yeah,
which that is very sweet. That is very nice.
right.
Um, oh gosh, fan interaction. I would say I get a lot of DMs for people asking me to draw them,
I mean, like
which
I
is
said, you are a very good artist. So
thank you, and I'm very flattered. I'm very flattered. Thank you very much. But I don't have enough time in the day. I need to sleep. I need to eat, and as much as I would love to draw you or your kids or your dog or whoever, that is something that I get a lot. That I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I can't.
I mean, at least you know you kind of have a viable backup plan if you ever
Oh yeah,
need. Like,
oh yeah. I've
ex-
thought about it many times.
like you seriously do. Absolutely, because you're that talented. So I
Thank you, thank you.
totally get people wanting you to draw them. Such a weird sentence, but you know what I mean.
It's always
Uh,
it's the artist meme. There's always artist memes like on artist social media, artist Twitter, where it's
yeah.
like, "Can you draw me?"
Yeah.
And it's it's the only question people get answered. And I'm very flattered that it is asked of me, but also I need to sleep.
Yeah. Not enough hours in a day. Not enough hours in a
Exactly.
day to do everything that you have to do. So, absolutely. You've interviewed so many athletes and coaches also. Has anything they've said stuck with you as a lesson beyond sports?
Ooh, well, I would say recently, a lot of what my interview with Marcus Mariota
Yeah.
was that has truly stuck with me due to how gracious he was with his time, due to how open he was with answering just about anything. He's one of the very few guys that was totally okay, did not edit any questions. He was totally open with everything. And I think his humility, just as the guy that he is, and being so giving and so philanthropic in his years, and what he said about being a leader for Jaden Daniels on the Commanders, for being that guy, that second up, and that mentor for him. I think that really stuck with me because it's very few people are able to kind of carry that backup position with such humility, such grace, and such kindness, and to be someone like Marcus and still in the game 11 years later, and to still
Right.
have that humility with him, and to still be willing to give back to the younger guys. I think that's really, really stuck with me for sure.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that was such an incredible interview. I was
Thank you.
so excited when I saw that you posted that because what an amazing opportunity and just really well done.
Thank you, thank you. That was actually shout out to the wine company he collaborated with. They reached out originally about his wine collaboration with the Motivate Foundation, and they were like, "Hey, we should be covering this because we've been doing this for almost over a decade now." And I said, "Hey, that would be great. Can I have Marcus on the phone?" And they said, "Absolutely." So it was shout out to them. They were fabulous at getting that interview together. So that was wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. So my final question for you, Allie, is what's one piece of advice that you'd give to students or young professionals interested in journalism or broadcasting?
Ooh, it's a piece of advice I have given every single tour that has come through KOIN Tower, every single person that has asked me for tips, which is be willing to learn every position, be willing to take on any job. And one of that is I have talked to so many news directors, so many people hiring in news positions, and for every 20 applications for a news job, there's 100 for a sports job. And I've noticed when somebody wants to get into the sports sphere, the easiest way is through news, and so many aspiring sports journalists are not willing to take the news route. And I don't think people realize that that makes you so much better and so much more prepared to tell sports stories. If you are good at news, you'll be good at sports. And another thing is, if you have the opportunity to learn how to produce, if you have the opportunity to learn how to MMJ, if you have the opportunity to learn how to direct, do it. Do it, do it, do it. The more you know, the more you have on your resume for skills. If you know how to edit, if you know how to shoot your own stuff, if you know how to write a script correctly, if you know how to put that package that you've created, that story you've created, into a rundown, if you know how to number a rundown, if you know how to put a show together, that makes you invaluable to a news company. When I was hired at KOIN, one of the things they looked for, one of the things they asked me as a lifestyle anchor is they said, "Can you produce?" That is one of the main reasons I got that job is I could produce, I could MMJ, I could do every job. When you're at a smaller station, there's going to be people that call out. There were many days where I had to work a full day and then some.
Yeah.
I mean, there was 6 months at a job that I had a couple years ago where we simply didn't have enough people to cover the 12 p.m. news. So I would produce my 4 p.m. show, leave halfway through to anchor the 12 p.m., then produce the rest of my show, anchor the 4 p.m., then leave, come back, anchor the 5:30 p.m., and then go shoot high school sports. I know it's nuts, but that is this industry. And the way that you get forward is by being willing to work and willing to learn many different positions, because it makes you valuable to a company, and it makes it so it's harder to fire you or to lay you off, because this industry is getting smaller and smaller by the day. You got to keep creating reasons for you not to get laid off.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Super important, kind of just opening yourself up to any opportunity to learn and get better in your field. And that seems wildly important, especially in this day and age. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here with me tonight. I'm going to ask you to plug in where people can find you, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just about everywhere. Remember that versatility thing I told you all about? I am
Going for
on.
it.
Oh, girl, you know, I'm on Ally Osborne. That is ALLYSOSBORNE, like Ozzy Osbourne, but without the U. On TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, X, wherever you can find me, I'm there. Threads, I'm even on that thing, even though I don't use it that much. Everything just gets auto posted on there. But you can find me on all those. I encourage you to follow along. I post the live updates for games for Oregon Ducks on Sports Illustrated, and I'm doing a lot of work with KOIN in their lifestyle division and in the sports division. So follow along; it'd be great to have you.
Plus, if you follow Ally, you get to see her amazing artwork, which I highly recommend and encourage. Definitely give Ally a follow. I'll be sure to put your information in the podcast description as well, just so people can find it easy. But yes, thank you so much, Ally. It was such a pleasure talking with you tonight, and I hope we can connect soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's it for today's episode of Cultivate Talk. A huge thank you to Ally Osborne for sharing her insights, her energy, and the behind the scenes perspective that so few people truly get to see. Conversations like this remind us that communication isn't just about delivering information. It's about connection, context, and the courage to show up authentically, even when the lights are bright and the pressure is high. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who loves storytelling, sports, or just good conversation. You can always find more communication tools, reflections, and resources over on Substack. Thanks for listening, for learning, and for cultivating better conversations one episode at a time. See you next time.